Good afternoon, guys. So today is 26th of December, and we will have to cover the next lecture of today. The first news is related to the no large-scale Bangladeshi ingress. This is said by BSF and the BJB. So what is BJB? BJB is the border guard of Bangladesh, and BSF is the border security force. Now there have been various acquisitions that have said that over the years there are a lot of persons who have traveled India illegally in search of work or in search of new places to settle. But BSF and the fact finding data have found that this claim is superfluous and have not relation to any reality whatsoever. And they have said that there is 4,906 kilometer between the two nations that is generally porous. And even if some person have traveled from Bangladesh to India, they too may have traveled in the lieu of the treatment, because there are some facilities. Bangladesh is still a second grade country. So that's why they would have traveled if for any kind of treatment that they would like to receive. Otherwise, the other reason that they have suggested, India have said that there is no transgression on large basis. But Bangladesh have also downgraded it on a manner that with the increase in the GDP growth in Bangladesh, there are not a lot of people who want to leave the country. Earlier they used to, but not now. The head of the BSF is Rakesh Asthana, who have said that approximately 3,000 people has been sent away. With respect to the NRC, the question has been asked for the border guard of Bangladesh, who's the head of the border guard of Bangladesh. He have downplayed the question. He have said this is the internal matter of India and we have nothing to say in this. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Okay, further moving on. I think there are 4 articles today that are very important, if I am not wrong. Okay, first of all, IISCR. So this is Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research. What is the kind of discovery that they have made? First of all, there was an issue with respect to the chlorophyll, that how chlorophyll is generated, and because we all understand that with the help of chlorophyll, the plant grows. Okay, that is completely understandable by most of the people. Now, these persons have studied that whenever the seed is in dark, as there is no presence of sunlight and it is situated under the soil, how it grows. Okay, so they have found a particular biosynthesis green pigment element called as protochlorophyllite. Now this protochlorophyllite is basically found by BBX11 gene or X11 gene. Now this gene basically help in the you can say synthesis of the different processes that a plant need, and this is a precursor to the chlorophyll. So this particular gene, if it is available in less amount, then they will, if it is regulated by this particular gene, then they will thrive. If it is present in a regular way in which it should be present, if it is present in excess, then the seeds are currently bleached. Okay, so that's why this protochlorophyllite, the understanding that how before the chlorophyll the seeds are taking their nutrients from here, has been solved by them, that this is the particular gene which actually helps them grow in the dark. Okay, now understand one thing, if this particular gene could be introduced to some other plants, I think most of the plant who need sunlight can be grown in dark. Okay, I know you can't understand this thing now, but understand the importance of this particular gene. This particular gene help in growth of the plants when they are in the dark. So you can also start indoor farming. So you can have buildings in which the soil is put in layer by layer, where you can prevent them from temperature. They do not need sunlight, and this particular gene will assist them in developing the large scale of fruits or vegetables or cereals that you want to grow. Okay, so this is a far away application of this, because there will be a lot of technicalities that will be associated with it, but I hope you understand why the discovery of this particular gene is important. Okay, I hope this is clear. The next one is the recharging DTH. Now what is recharging DTH article deals with? Sorry, I hope you remember that the 100% FDI has been opened by the government of India, and there are 2 or 3 major changes that the government of India have done with respect to the DTH in India. Now, the first technological and the revenue pressures that they have changed is with respect to the license period, and the second one is with respect to the fees that the government of India is charging. Now, the license period for any DTH to invest in India, earlier it was 10 years. Now the licenses are being allotted for a 20 years tenure. So that make easier for the DTH services to stay in India for a longer time. The second one is the fees issue. The fees issue right now has been set up at 8% of the adjusted gross revenue, and earlier it was 10% of the gross revenue. Now what is the issue between the two? Understand two things. There are two type of issues that are generally provided by DH. There is a service charge and there is a total profit that or total revenue that they are generating. Total revenue generation is the total amount of money that the company has been raising from the market. Okay, so let's say if all the people, there are 10 people in a particular locality, they are using or having a recharge of 500 rupees, then the total 2500 rupees will be the revenue of the company. Now, when there is a gross revenue, you take all 2500 of the revenue. Okay? But now the government is saying that we will charge 8% on the adjusted gross revenue. Now, what is adjusted gross revenue? Adjusted gross revenue is equal to gross revenue minus service tax. So whatever the taxation you have been charging as a service tax, because service tax is approximately 18%. So the tax that you are charging, you do not have to pay fees to the government on that basis. So that actually cuts out a liability on the DTH, okay, or the DTH service provider. Secondly, you have also reduced it by 2%. So earlier it was 10%, now it is 8%. So basically, I think 3 to 4% money will be depreciating, although it looks like 2%. But I hope you understand the definition change that this had, or this particular provision had been providing. Now, the problem that the DTH sector is currently facing with respect to the combination technologies. Now, what is a combination technology? Now, in India, I think you all would have seen Aaj Tak somewhere in any of your life. So, Aaj Tak is coming on television, Aaj Tak is coming on Facebook, and Aaj Tak is also coming on small videos on Instagram and also on the platform like YouTube. Okay, so there is a switching of technology or the combination technology that people like to see now. So therefore, there are approximately increasing competition from all the media. There are over-the-air platforms, for example, Netflix and Amazon Prime and Z5, which are providing quality contents in India, and that have made the DTH a type of unreliable business to be hanging out with such less amount of flexibility. So that's why there are DTH, there are broadcasters, and there are the channel suppliers who are basically talking about more leverage in deciding about what price they want to offer to the people. Now, what the government of India have said, the government of India have earlier passed a rules, that is new tariff order, in which the television channels can charge their money. They have fixed the charge for the DTH channel. Secondly, for the HD channel, there is a separate charge, and then there are different money that is being provided to the DTH service provider. Okay, so I hope you understand. You have a set-top box, for example, let's say Tata Sky. Now in Tata Sky, you can subscribe to your own channel, whatever you want to see. So you will only have to pay for those channel, whichever channel you want to see, and not for other channel which you do not want to see. So that is a decision that you are making. The DTH company who is supplying you the set-top box and the receiver is only getting the money that is prescribed by the government for every channel that you subscribe. Okay, I think 123 or 136 rupees is the amount of money that is monthly going to them. Moreover, they are not allowed flexibility in offering different kind of packages into a bundle package. Okay, so there are bundle packages, but they are not able to or not allowed to basically regulate the prices. Okay, so every bundle price they have to keep sanctions from the NTO, and this is the maximum amount that they can charge. So that's why the companies are, or the DTH service providers are not in a completely free manner that they should operating their DTH. So that's why they are saying that this particular NTO should also be prevented, because you remember under Article 19G of the Constitution, every person should have a freedom to conduct his business according to his own will and his own discretion. Okay, if it is not legal or not immoral. So DTH business is not legal and not immoral. So that's why if they challenge this particular decision of the government in the Supreme Court of India, that they are fixing the prices. However, it is the authority of DTH service providers how much money to be charged and how packages should be constructed. Okay, I hope this is clear. The next one is the limits of the sovereignty. So this is again related to the deal between the you can say Britain and European Union. So there is a 4% loss of GDP over the 15 years. This is what the budget department of Britain has been saying in European Union. Now there are a lot of things that have been talked about. They have been saying that if there is a deal without the agreement, then they could lose approximately 6% of the total GDP that they had currently right now. ठीक है, तो जितना उनका GDP होता है उसका 6% they will lose. Now UK is dependent on food imports from European Union, so most of the food is not produced in Britain, but it is coming from outside, approximately 75% of it. So there are zero tariff trade issues, there is retail energy issues. Apart from that, there are issues with respect to the free movement and the work issues. There are major stumbling blocks, for example, fishes and the concerns. Okay. This article is also sufficient, but I think it also does not cover the whole aspects of the British society and the European Union, how it was constructed, how it is functioning right now, and what are the issues with it. Okay. So leave it aside right now. We will talk about this later, and I think there will be a separate lecture on the exit of Britain on European Union and the consequences to the world. Okay. So I hope this is clear. The next one is the Article 356 and activist judiciary. Why this article has come forward? I hope you remember the Andhra Pradesh High Court decision. Andhra Pradesh High Court decision has been quashed by the Supreme Court of India, in which Supreme Court questioned to the Andhra Pradesh High Court judge that what gives you the authority to decide whether a government is basically functioning under the constitutional provisions or not. Okay? Now, coming back, what is the issue here? This is a very pretty interesting issue to understand. You must understand this interesting issue. First of all, what is the judicial activism? I will be explaining every definition here because we have just started, or I think we have covered the fundamental rights in somewhere in middle of the polity, and it will be very, I think, a type of a keen topic to actually discuss upon, okay, or to build something upon. Now, in Article 356, the governor, or there is a provision for the president rule on the advice of the governor. So if the governor feels that the state is not run under the constitution provision. Now what does we mean by if the state is not being run under the constitution provision? Let's say the state is not following the right to equality. The state is not following any type of direction that is issued by the center. So what will happen under these circumstances? The governor can write a letter to the President of India and he can say that the state is not operating under the constitution provision and therefore it should be abolished. Okay? Or the state government should made to fall, which will automatically bring in president rule under Article 356 on the state. मतलब सरकार गिर गई और अब सरकार वहां पे नहीं है. ठीक है, तो वो किसके अंडर आ जाएगी? प्रेसिडेंट रूल के अंडर. I hope this is clear. The problem with this particular news in Andhra Pradesh is that Andhra Pradesh High Court have decided that they will form a committee who will look after the functioning of the Andhra Pradesh government, that whether it is working under a constitutional provisions or not. Now understand one thing, we have talked about the federal structure of India. Tell me, what does a federal structure tell us? That the judiciary cannot interfere in executive, the executive cannot interfere in legislature. But here what is happening? The judiciary is taking a type of a comment on whatever the jurisdiction of the legislature or jurisdiction of the executive. Okay, so Supreme Court said that you cannot question a particular government in whichever manner they are operating. It is the discretion of the whom? Article 356. Now, Faizan Mustafa have picked up the comment on Article 356. He starts by saying that when we talk about Article 356, this was to enable the government to basically provide a better management, a better administration, or a better control over the common people. Now, in a democracy, we need something that will enable the government to govern the people who have chosen them. Now, what does we mean by this? You have an elected government, okay? You have to have some mechanism by which you will elect the government. You have to have some person in place or by a way of procedure in which the elected people will be elected, okay, or the elected representatives will be elected. Now, when we talk about Article 356, he have gone into the total criticism of Article 356. He says that when we talk about Article 356, it is a direct attack on the federalism of India. Why it is a direct attack on the federalism of India? Because you have given a power to the central government to basically dismiss any government in the state. Okay? In federalism, you do not have a right to, in true federalism, when I say, you do not have a right in the central government to dismiss any of the state government. Okay? Now, this Article 356 starts from 1935 Act. Now, when this came in 1935 Act, this was criticized hugely by the people that were present in the Constituent Assembly or in the government that was formed in 1935, or in the government that, or in the under the provisions of the Act that were formed in 1937. So, the government at that particular time criticized every provision of Article 356. They said that this is a draconian law and it will be used by the British government to basically dismiss every government at the provincial level. Okay? So in that particular order, the leaders have also criticized it, but after the constitution, when it was enacted, the Article 356 was included in the constitution. When it was asked to Mr. B.R. Ambedkar that what is the provision of this particular article to be introduced in the Constituent Assembly or in the Constitution of India, B.R. Ambedkar said that there might occur some situation in the future under which the central government will have to give such authority so that they can ensure the unity of the country. Because we have seen in the case of Khalistan, let's say there is a government who have come in Punjab that they will make Punjab a separate nation. So the center must be given some power, and that power is provided by Article 356 to dismiss the government if it is not operating against the constitution provision. I hope you understand which constitution provision they will be violating if they are asking for a separate nation. The Article 1 of the Constitution. In India, no state can ask for a separate nation. It is a violation of the Constitution provision. So, the President has been provided under Article 356 the power to basically dismiss any government that is present over there, and therefore B.R. Ambedkar said that this is for exceptions. This is rarely to be used, and this particular article will remain a dead letter. But over the course of the last 75 years of the democracy, 73 years of democracy, we have seen that Article 356 is the most used article, so much so that approximately 125 incidences of misuse has been found of this particular article. Okay? Now, everybody can dismiss a government. Then he talks about the Indira Gandhi dismissal, the BJP dismissal, the government in Arunachal Pradesh, and all other dismissals of the majority government. So these are some of the things that he told about. And in the end, he says that when the constitution experts are consulted, they are of the view that the executive minded and the executive itself, there is a difference. So High Court should not interfere in the executive. That is a true fact. But the executive should also act under the provision of the constitution. That is also needed to be ensured. Okay. The next one is the fallout of King in the wrong labor codes. Now, what is this fallout of the labor codes? Plus, please understand there is an issue with respect to a company called as Western. Western has 2,000 regular employees and 7,000 contractual employees. There was an issue with respect to the bad labor treatment in which the wages were also not paid. So they came to the you can say company, and then they broke away all the furniture and all other damages that were there. The initial cost that they claimed by the company was 759 crore. Now it has been reduced to approximately 50 crore, and the government is asking for an amicable solution between the aggrieved parties and also between the Western Electronics, who was on the losing end. Now, why this case is important? Because this is a type of an example or setting an example case for India. Wistron was a company that was working in Taiwan. They have shifted their headquarters from Taiwan to India, and they make products for the Apple iPhone. Now, in China, they have often been accused of not following the labor laws. Now, as they come to India and they do not pay payment, and they do not were able to provide the payment, so that have actually created a type of a you can say dilemma for the government, that whether to protect the labor codes or whether to make or let world know that our labor laws are generally environment friendly, because no company or no buddy in the world or no businessman in the world would like to invest if they are seeing the problem with the Indian labor codes or the violent behavior of any place, or basically if the country is uh, not stable in any manner. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Now, Andhra Pradesh state government have already appealed the Factories Act 1948. Now, what happened under this particular act? First of all, the ordinary timing that was for 8 hour has been increased to 12 hour now. There is an increase in the capital, or there is a need of the capital that is needed to be flown to the country, so that the uh, you can say more money could be raised or more companies would be coming from outside. Now, according to the labor laws, he says that the problem with the reforms is not that the reforms are bound to be happening, but the problem with the reforms is the timing. There are 47 central laws and 2000 state laws that are needed to be rationalized, and they are needed to be consolidated. This is the objective of the, you can say, labor codes. So what is the two major objective? Consolidation and the rationalization. Why? Because there are 47 central laws, central labor laws, and 2000 state laws. So if you have to work in a particular state, you will have to approximately read 10 laws provided by the central 47 laws, then you can work in that particular company. So therefore, what the government is making, government is generally rationalizing them into four laws: the laws on occupational safety, the laws on health and working condition, the law on social security, and the law on wages. Okay. Now the problem with the pandemic is, the author is of the opinion that right now the pandemic is going on. The workers were already suffering. They are just come out from a pandemic, and as they are not paid finances or not paid the money, they are bound to be happening violent. Now, most of the government have not understand the plight of the laborers, but they have gone ahead with the suspension of all the labor laws for the next 3 years, so that they could attract more capital and more companies from outside. But as you provide such kind of leverage to the companies and the capital, then the companies start to abuse the privileges that are provided to them. And once they start to abuse the privileges, the workers that are working in the company, they are either going to suffer at the hands of the big corporates, or they will have to pay the penalties in, or you can say, type of a free service, but not getting paid for the work that they have done. Okay. Now this is a selective, whatever we want, we are trying to do. He says that we are following the China line. What China have did, China increased the long working hours. We are following that. China provided the flexible use of labor. We are working that. But he says the other thing that China did, we are not following them. Now, what are the other things that China did? So China provided some form of dormitory facilities to the workers and the security benefits. Then they talk about the China's local government compete with one another for the excellent infrastructure. For example, uh, the municipalities were competing with one another because they want to attract business. They are being provided money for raising of the infrastructure. Now, that is one of the major problems that is happening in India. In India, the urban per capita income is approximately 256 rupees per day, which generally translates to 6500 rupees within 25 days. Now, trade unions are also in favor of the reforms, but they criticize that in this particular case, the companies are only getting benefited and the workers are not getting benefited. That's why the trade unions are against the labor code. Okay? They want the rationalization and consolidation. You must understand the problem. It is also difficult for them to understand whatever is written in the law. So therefore, they want the consolidation and the rationalization. But the rationalization and consolidation should also add some balance to the labor, or the skewed balance between the labor and the companies. So therefore, they want that a balanced approach by the government should be taken. However, in the yesterday's newspaper, we have said that all the trade unions have basically rejected the draft laws which the government is trying to push in the next year. Okay, or in this financial year 2021, maybe during the budget. So I think the budget session or the next year, we will see a protest from the trade unions if the farmer issue get resolved. Otherwise, they will join in and it will be more trouble for the Modi government. ठीक है, तो इस बात को ध्यान रखिएगा. अच्छा, if you want to understand the Western case, you can read the making of a tinder box. Okay, and whole issue you can read over here. Okay, next one is the first set of data from Chandrayaan 2 has been released. So that is a type of a good thing. They have said that all the experiments, apart from the land and rover experiment, has been functioning well, and the data received have suggested that the capability is increasing. And there is another organization called a Center of Planetary Data Archive that is basically maintaining all the records of the data of ISRO. So that is a good thing. Okay, further moving on, Army seeks to expedite helicopter deal. Now, this is KA226T, and this particular agreement was signed in 2015 for 200 helicopters, out of which 60 will be taken away directly from Russia and 140 will be manufactured locally within the country. Now, the problem is arising with respect to the Indianization that is going to happen locally. So, what happened in the defense trade deals, there is an element of Indianization, there is an element of flyaway condition. So when you buy something from another country, you say that at least 70% of the components for 140 products will be made in India. Okay, so for example, I am buying 200 helicopters. I say that I will buy 60 from your country. Whatever material you want to use, whatever things you want to do, you can do that. The another 140 will have to be constructed in India with 70% of the items that will be used in that particular helicopter to be manufactured in India. Now the problem between the Indian and Russian have been stuck on this particular place is that the company is saying that they can provide a maximum of 62.4% and the government want 70% to be the indigenous component. Okay. Now that also creates some time problem for the country. For example, Modi government is focusing highly on Atmanirbhar Bharat and Swadeshi. So if you go on changing the 70% localization to 60% localization, then it will be criticized by the opposition. So that's why they are getting delayed. On the other hand, the government has been saying that right now they are flying two type of helicopters. One is Cheetah and second is Chetak. They are 30 years old. 75% of the helicopters are 30 years old and some are 50 years old. So see the technology that we are currently having right now. That's why we want basically this deal to go forward. And even with the Indianization of 62.54%, the helicopters are needed by India to maintain the patrols and all other small things that are required to be done on the borders and all other things for surveillance and also for the deterrence mechanism. Okay. The next one is the Urdu author S.R. Farooqi passes away. Just read about him, see his photo. And he was an Urdu author who has been famous. So you need not to go into detail. The next news is European Union envoy assess post-Brexit trade deal. So they are still assessing it, what will happen and what will not happen. So we will talk about this later because there will be a complete article on whatever the way Britain forward will be looking for and whatever the European Union major concerns are. I think some of the concerns we have also talked about yesterday, but I hope you understand there will be more concerns and more detailed analysis that will be provided on this particular issue in the upcoming days. The next news is the Russia backs increase in oil output by OPEC plus countries. So Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries plus. Okay. So there are OPEC countries and there are OPEC plus countries. The plus country include Russia. And understand one thing, why they have said so, because petroleum is basically a revenue generating commodity for any market. Okay. So how much quantity you are selling is the amount of tax you will be getting. Okay. Now, in that particular part, you should understand this thing that OPEC have said that there should be 5 lakh extra barrels of production from the next week to deal with the global oil producers because the prices are going to stand at 45 barrels to 55 barrels. Okay. तो इस बात को ध्यान रखिएगा. Next one again, India must strongly push for UK and EU trade pacts. So services is a bright spot. This is said by experts, and they are saying that India should be pushing for free trade agreements with European Union now, and also with the United Kingdom on a separate base. And they should not waste any time in getting negotiations underway, so that a better future could be hoped for United Kingdom and India, and also for European Union and India. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Yeah, I think that is it for today.